Hello everyone and welcome to the channel if you are new. My name is The Truth About Trans. The Truth About 2 is my TikTok username. I'm a trans medicalist. I make TikToks and YouTube videos about trans politics. I try to get both sides, and I feel like today we have the best match for that, honestly. Today we have a video by Jubilee, yet again. I've done videos on their videos before. It's called Trans versus Conservative Men. Is Masculinity Disappearing in America? Now, I feel like this was one of the better videos I could find to make a video on because I'm often compared to conservative men, and we have the modern trans man, as Jubilee could find, versus just any old conservative you can find walking down the street as well. So I think this would be really good. Maybe I can talk a little bit about some of the subjects that we get here.
You agree with the prompt. Masculinity is disappearing in America.
There's a few different ways to think about masculinity, but just looking at kind of the definition of the term 50 years ago, you had people like John Wayne, you had Martin Luther King, you had Sean Connery. You think of like masculine features as in beards, hairy chest, big muscles, think stoic, being brave, being rugged, being a provider. Today you have people like Harry Styles and Timothy Chalamet. You have people that are completely contrary to what we were looking at back then. And
So, I mean, personally, if you ask me, like, if Timothy Chalamet is a masculine-looking man, I mean, he's got a nice jawline, he's got a visible Adam's apple, visible facial hair. I mean, to me, that's a man. That's a man. Harry Styles. Let's see. He's got visible facial hair. He's got a very manly chest. He's got strong shoulders, muscles. It's a pretty masculine looking man. I mean, if you just take out whatever he's wearing. So I think I'm not sure where these guys get off at being like they're taking masculinity away from us.
With my beliefs and having a trans man as my friend, we don't really talk about politics. Someone being trans doesn't make me like them any less of a person. As far as pronouns, when referring to my friend, I don't really use the pronouns that my friend would want.
Now, what the actual fuck is wrong with you? like, I'm sorry, but why? What exactly are you getting out of that there, my friend? What are you getting out of that? I don't use the pronouns that it doesn't want. What do you get out of that, Ben Shapiro looking ass?
See that masculinity is
Oh,
under
look,
attack
Buck Angel.
completely. But my definition of masculinity, like you said, has a lot to do with the traits that are associated with it. As a gay man, I mean, of all of us, I'm not the most masculine man, but I do think that the good aspects of
It's funny that he sees himself that way because he does appear masculinely. He's got short haircut, his cheekbones, his facial structure is very visible, Like, his voice is a little fruity, but
masculinity are definitely under attack, but I don't think that it's disappearing, it's just being channeled in different.
I think that guy gets it. I'm pretty sure he stepped up for disagree, but he says that it's just being changed, and I think that's exactly right. Masculinity is not exactly something that's it's an opinion. There's not a rule book that says this is how to be masculine, but there are traditional ways to appear masculinely to pass as a transgender man. So I think that's where we're kind of murky. Alright, we got there's a right and wrong way to be a man.
There is a right and wrong way to be a man. Take a second to think about it.
Okay.
I think that when I originally heard the question being asked, I didn't agree with it, but men are not abusive individuals. Men are not to be cowards. Men are to lead.
But why do we have to attach the word men? Men. Men are people are supposed to do right and wrong things. Right and wrong. We can get into what is right and wrong.
All of those characteristics are what make a man, and when I see a man be a coward in the truth, in just speaking the truth, or sticking up for what's right, especially today in America with everything going on, I'm like, those are not men. My name is Clarkson, I'm 24 years old, and I'm a conservative man. My biggest question for the other side really is, are you happy? Anybody that wants to fundamentally change society and change gender roles, to me, that's not happiness.
Maybe I'll bump in a little personal here, but as a transgender person, am I happy to change how society is, or like to just be who I am? And the truth of the matter is that I'm happier the way I am now than the way I was before. And I think that's just about as simple as it will ever be, is that to be simple and to like not complicate things beyond what they need to be. I am happier now than I was before, regardless of how that goes against cultural shit. When I went from being a female, an unhappy female, a dysphoric little girl, and then I, started going by the name I wanted to go to, started being called he, him, and dressing masculinely, a lot of my mental health symptoms, I was hospitalized 3 times for mental health. I was hospitalized 3 times for mental health. After that, after I transitioned, after I started testosterone, I stopped doing any of my psychiatric medications. I was never hospitalized again. I never had any severe, I didn't have any suicide attempts, but I never had any of the symptoms that were problematic beforehand, is what I'll say. I never had any more problematic symptoms after I started transitioning. So I think by like psychological standards, personally, I am happy.
At the end of the day, we're all men, and I don't believe there's any wrong way to be a man. We're just redefining what it means to be a man.
But there are things that naturally come to men. So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today. So just like aimlessly throwing out, oh, well, we're just redefining what it is to be a man, that's not just like a light subject that we should be talking about.
If we're talking about what it's taken to get humanity to still be alive, to reproduce as it is today, this guy in himself is a fucking hypocrite for saying, like, you can't redefine what being a man is because it'll wipe out our human race. Being gay will wipe out our human race. Being, like, by that standard, being gay also will not cause any more generations to come. Being trans, eliminates just as much as the future population, as being gay does. does next to nothing. Trans people still have children anyway.
See the state of our world today, it's not perfect. It's been led by men like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
So we're talking about redesigning what it means to be a man. So what do you want to bring to traditional men?
I think it's embracing that you can be vulnerable. I think that a lot of men want to portray strength, 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 but men are people, and I know that men have feelings.
Being a man and masculinity, those are 2 different things. And I believe that we can redefine whatever that means to anybody by including other types of men or other types of masculinity. I myself am a father, I have a child. Some people would disagree with me being a father because I am transgender. But that being said, I present to the world as male, my child sees me as a man.
Right, so I think Buck here has a really good point, that we can accept trans men as still being men. Because if you look at him, and you try to tell me that Buck Angel does not look like a dude, and that he should be, like, he is the embodiment of what these people think masculinity should be traditionally. He appears as male. As he states, he appears as male. And it would be foolish to state otherwise.
I have male privilege.
You know what? Hold on. Hold on.
I have male
Let's see. Probably has male privilege, probably doesn't have male privilege, probably has male privilege. This one's a fucking in-between for me. Has male privilege, has male privilege, has male privilege. Like, I feel like this one's pretty simple. You can just look at a guy and say whether or not they probably experience male privilege. You want to watch?
Privilege.
You want to watch what they think? That one thinks they have male privilege and that one doesn't. That's sad. It's a bit sad.
Oh, so.
I've lived both lives, and I can tell you firsthand that it does exist. I am taken much more seriously in my career since I've transitioned as a man. Prior to transitioning, I would work just as hard, if not harder, for the same position and not be considered. The minute that I transition, I am immediately taken more seriously.
I think the word privilege is the thing that turns a lot of people off with this conversation. But that being said, again, myself living my life as a female, pretty much half my life, and then now half my life as a man, there is no way I could not be honest about the fact that my life has changed drastically. Also being a white man, that's also a conversation a lot of people don't want to have. But I have privilege of being white and privilege also of being a man now. I can walk into any room and come.
It's funny because every time I see, I don't watch Buck Angel. I don't listen to Buck Angel. Anytime I see him after like months of like doing my TikTok shit and having comments about how terrible he is, it just he sounds so liberal compared to what people like say he is. Like he sounds truly like understanding and like not. He doesn't sound like people like to present him as like some crazy ass Transmed who's gonna like, I don't know, fucking take away your tranny card just because he doesn't like you being trans.
Man that room in a heartbeat because people just do that with men. And I think the thing is that biological men are born into that space, so they'll never ever see it. Why do we now as women who have become men get to have this thing? It's 100% because we are men. We look like men. Nobody would ever know. No one would ever know that we used to be women. So it's actually a real lived experience.
I agree with a lot of what you all are saying as far as like transitioning. But as a black man, privilege looks way different for me. Because if I'm walking down the street, then I'm seen as a threat by police, by women, by anybody else. Being seen as a man is where my privilege stops and where everything else begins. So I don't see it as privilege.
Okay, I got it.
He's got a really unique perspective on that. You know, I think there's something to say about how I initially judged that, and I said, you know, this guy has male privilege, but you know, when you see things from a side that you like these conservative men, you know they don't see it from the side of being trans, and I don't see it from the side of being black. You know, that's just how a lot of these things work.
I mean, we have to be transparent and honest with each other. You know, I think that not everybody on this side presents 100% like a man. Like if I saw you in the streets, I wouldn't think you were a man. You know.
See, we're stating the obvious. Like, it's ridiculous to say that like certain of these trans dudes are like male privilege. Like he's getting on the track that maybe I can start to agree a little bit with him. I think that everything he said so far has been pretty murky.
Wars have been fought by men. They've died in the hundreds of thousands. Men commit suicide more. Men work more the dangerous jobs. You know, if somebody broke in this place right now, who are they going to expect to defend everybody in here? It's going to be the men. If your family fails, they're not looking at your wife. They're not. They're looking at the man. You know, I just want people
It's
to
interesting to see
understand
who's nodding along.
There's some advantages that
like
men
when
have.
he lost them.
Also, men do
Some of them were
struggle
nodding
in
and then
custody
stopped.
and all kinds of
Oh
different
no,
things in
100%.
society.
I 100% agree with you as a man now, right? But I think my perception of it is different than yours because you were born male, you were raised male, you have a whole other space in that, and I totally respect your opinion on that. And I believe that that is a true lived experience as a born man.
I mean, my biggest question with this and why I don't necessarily agree with it is because when it comes to privilege, there's not really a way to quantify it. It's very subjective. So like your version of male privilege and your version of male privilege are very different.
So it's hard to see the other side because you've never lived it.
Yeah.
The difference between you and us is we see it because we've lived it. You have not. So it's easy to speak and be like, well, it doesn't exist. Well, how would you know?
Well, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I think everybody has.
I think this little trans twink has just like absolutely taken what this man here said and just ran with it. You know, he was let's go back to what he said because he was on an agreeable. At least I feel that he said something completely agreeable, and then I feel like the other guy just like took it. What was that?
I mean, my biggest question with this and why I don't necessarily agree with it is because when it comes to privilege, there's not really a way to quantify it. It's very subjective.
It's
So,
subjective.
like,
That's what he says. Like,
your version of male privilege and your version of male privilege are very.
it's subjective. Your version of male privilege and your version of male privilege are very different. What does Jacob have to say?
See it because we've lived it. You have not. So it's easy to speak and be like, well, it doesn't exist. Well, how would you know?
When did he say that? When did he say, well, it doesn't exist? He said it's subjective. He's saying exactly like that. Jacob here has lived a completely different life than I don't know his name. So what's What are we talking
Well,
about?
I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I
never
think
said that,
everybody
right.
has certain privileges, but what I think the question here is what defines male privilege over women? Because women have privileges too.
Right.
So is there a graph that you guys are calculating to make men have more than women, or what?
The privilege is not
I think he's getting kind of lost there, though, because like I think you don't need a graph to determine whether or not men have more or less privilege than women. Look at the world. Look at the United States. Look at the United States. We have had the option for females to run our country for forever. Men still do. Men still have majority positions of authority in regular workplaces, in the government, just in the military, wherever. They usually are more favorable to the public because that's just how we're built.
acknowledging what you have that comes so easy.
So do you think that your fear...
To add to that, I think you'd have to be blind to think that we live in a world where females have the same amount or more privilege than men. Like, I think that's what we're saying here is, I have the privilege that men have, which is greater than the privilege that women have. That's what this sentence is. It's shortened, but that's just what we're saying here.
It is. You never really changed as a person. You're the same person
Right,
that you
exactly.
were. So you have the same physical capabilities that you did when you were a woman.
No.
You don't?
No, my strength is entirely different after
Well,
taking
what
hormones.
percentage would you say?
More than 100%. I
Okay,
weighed
so but
like
you still
100.
More than 100% is crazy. More than 100% is statistically not entirely possible.
Pounds,
but
now I weigh
still,
like
you're still
133.
not probably as strong as me.
But it's not about strength. It's that
Or-
women are targeted. Men are not targeted. I mean, maybe sometimes. I'm not saying it's never going to happen.
They're targeted by other men. Most of the
Right.
homicides
But women
occur
are
in this
targeted
country are
by other
homicides of-
men. I think women have less of a safe space.
Why are we
That's what I'm
talking
talking about.
over each other? Why are we talking over each other? Why is this man like he's brute forcing this other guy? He's just, if I just keep yapping, then maybe this guy will shut the fuck up, and I'll just be right by default because he doesn't even get a chance. He doesn't even get a word in. I'm interested in what he has to say. Can we shut the fuck up? Like,
Men don't have a safe space. If you go to certain
But I'm talking
cities,
about a
they
specific,
get murdered by
okay, but
other
I'm not
men,
talking about certain cities.
more
I'm
so
talking
than
about
women.
everyday life.
Yeah, every day.
Not
I think
certain
that's a
cities.
blanket
Have you ever been?
statement.
Have you been attacked as a woman?
I have.
I have been pressurized by
I've been
everyone,
raped.
yes.
I've been attacked. I can go on and on and on. I was homeless, living in the streets, raped all the time. It happens. It's a real thing. I didn't see the guys on the street getting raped, but you
But
go.
men do get raped.
if Buck
What hap-
Angel, as he stands today, went out and was homeless, do you think he would still get raped? And that's not like me being funny or anything. It's like a genuine question to this conversation. If Buck Angel, who has previously been raped as a woman, went out to the street and was homeless today, would he still get raped and attacked? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think it's because he's a dude. Because he's a dude, he's got a beard, he looks like a dude, he doesn't look vulnerable.
But we're not
But the
making it-
experience of it, of
Do you
course,
get
depends on
catcalled down the street? Like,
I
does
mean,
that happen?
women say things to me when I was
But
a
do you
police
feel
officer.
threatened?
Do you
feel
feel
scared of
threatened?
them.
You feel empowered though, right?
No, I don't feel empowered.
Women feel scared when they get catcalled. They don't feel like
So that's
But do you feel
disgusting.
scared? Do you feel threatened when a woman
But I don't-
catcalls you?
No, I don't. And
Okay,
I don't feel
That's
threatened
the
if a man
difference.
try to challenge
Because you have
me.
that male privilege.
Right. As a woman,
Because if you're catcalled as a woman and you say something wrong, that man can come up to you, beat the shit out of you, overpower you, and then it's out of your control. As a man, if you get catcalled, you can tell them, shut the fuck up! Or whatever. Or just, like, walk away and look annoyed, and that'll be the end of it. If you walk away as a woman, sometimes they will take that too seriously, and then decide that now it's time to be violent towards you. That's just how it works.
Women are not as strong as men and they get targeted. Sure, yes, that is a privilege that men have over women, but that doesn't mean that men have privilege because of that one situation. Men commit suicide way more than women do.
Because if we're going to go that route, trans men commit suicide twice the
right,
rate.
but that's not
I think what's important here is to distinguish the fact that, yes,
I think if that's true, that's an interesting statistic. I think, as I said, if that's true.
no one is negating the fact that women can get preyed on. There's situations where this happens, right? Like, no one's going to deny that. But we're also just trying to say that it's not like a one-sided coin here, where there's like men are just, we just have it good and we can do whatever we want.
I do
We
not
can't
believe that's true.
we can't even be the next Supreme Court justice because it's like.
But again, I live as a man, so I see the
See,
difference.
that's a good.
When I said
That's a good point. Over the last 114 Supreme court justices, only 4 have been women. So who's really got the privilege?
Agree that there's such thing as female privilege?
Oh, sure, 100%.
My wife has privilege because she has me.
That's right.
So she don't have to worry about her
Right
safety
on.
because I'm there.
I don't believe that as a man, it's like, there's marketing for women-owned brands. Like I said, I can't be the next Supreme Court justice. Like, women are very much more empowered today, which I think is, I don't have a problem with it. I mean, like, good for you. But I think that the man I probably have privilege because I'm, 6 foot 210. Like, no one's picking on me when I walk down the street. I used to live in Chicago, and I used to walk home all the time at night. But like, was that smart? Probably not. But I felt a little safe because, I'm not 5 foot 100 pounds. I'm Max. I'm 29, and I'm a conservative man. In today's society, women and men can be whatever they want and be as successful or as strong or as big of a leader as they choose. So I'm just wondering, in a society that is so seemingly level, more level than ever before, why are we transitioning to different genders to find, and what are we looking for?
Why are we transitioning to different genders, and what are we looking for? It's relief from crippling gender dysphoria, because that's what the treatment for gender dysphoria is. It's to transgender. That's why this is happening. That's why we are where we are today. That's why.
Looking for.
Biology determines gender.
I'm interested on Bucks. Bucks, what do you have to say about this?
Sex and gender, people try to argue that they're different, but sex and gender actually go hand to hand. And our biology, being a man, comes down to every fiber within our body. So whether that be DNA, chromosomes, testosterone levels,
I'd like to know if this guy's a scientist. I'd like to know if any of these people are fucking scientists.
bone density. There's a whole bunch of different factors that go into it, and it all has to do with biology.
So biology, I 100% believe in biology. Today we talk about biology being a social construct. I disagree with that as a transgender person. I was born biologically female. I always acknowledge that, and today I live as a male. Now that being said, sex and gender, they are trying to separate those things. Gender can be, I've chosen my gender. As you see, nobody would, I think, probably understand that I used to be a female. Now, many people do, like you just said, believe that sex and gender are one thing and you can never change those. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm trying to show the world that this is how I feel by presenting the outside. But I think denying biology is where we get into a lot of problems.
If you want to be, seen as a man, then like,
right on.
Who are you to? I don't care. I mean, you do you, whatever makes you happy. But I think like it becomes a slippery slope. It's like, how are we going to deny basic human facts? Like, there's two genders.
I think that causes problems, and it causes problems for me.
Yeah.
Because the minute I start denying your biology, now you feel attacked by me. Right. And I don't want you to feel attacked by me. I never want you to feel, I want to be a part of, if that makes sense. You don't have to agree with my choice of how I live my life, but all I ask for is respect.
What do you have on your driver's license and your birth certificate?
Right,
did you change it to male, or did you change it to?
So that being said, I transitioned to live as a man 29 years ago. So that was way before
it's probably
you see
older
any
than
of
this
it.
guy. It's probably older than this guy right here.
Stuff, and I had to acknowledge my biology, right? That being said, my license, I travel the world. It has to say male. Can you imagine if I showed up at the airport, they're like, female? Dude, there's something going on here. But I actually got my birth certificate changed to male. I was the first person to do that here in Los Angeles. But that being said, I kind of think that it might have been a mistake to do that now, looking forward today, because I never thought we would be having this conversation.
I'm glad you.
I've noticed in a lot of the trans individuals that I've met, the older generation who had it a lot harder in society to be accepted is a lot more willing to have the conversation.
We didn't have social media. I didn't have cell phones. I didn't have computers when I transitioned. This is how you build bridges. I'm Buck. I'm 59 years old, and I'm a trans man. Because I'm an elder trans man now, and there's a much newer generation, there's a definite space where I have a different way of being than the younger generation, and why I tend to call myself a transsexual man. And I believe in biology, I believe in binary, so it really does not necessarily align with the new thought process that is happening with the newer generation.
And what are these
so I love this question. With trans folks, biology does change. Our bone density does change. Our muscle structure does change. Our testosterone levels do change. So biologically, we do change.
And while that is true, we can't sit here and pretend that you weren't a female. Like, we can't sit here and say biology does change. Biology, when you start testosterone, certain things about you, biologically, medically speaking, change to male. But there's also things that stay female. So we can't sit here and pretend that, you've gone and grown a penis and now you're just, it's as if you just went back and changed yourself to male. Because I'm hoping that his next couple sentences, he corrects that or clarifies that.
Anatomically, now that's where surgeries come into play. So when we're talking about biology and gender, that
But if I get all the surgeries I possibly can to be seen as male in most aspects of my life, if I get phalloplasty, if I get like flawless looking phalloplasty, that doesn't even always happen. Phalloplasty is a terribly complicated procedure that often comes out varying results depending on your surgeon. If I get flawless keyhole top surgery that looks, there's no scarring, there's nothing, it looks as if I was just a cis man. If I'm on testosterone for years and years and years, if I get a hysterectomy, I do all of these things, like I have still been born a woman. My bones still appear female, and I'm sure that if you were to take my blood, there would still be something that would read as female.
be changed. Our biology absolutely and concretely changes.
Not the DNA.
But our
DNA does not change.
Yeah, DNA is not going to change for anyone.
So you acknowledge there's a biological difference between males and females, because some people on the other side would say there's no difference. Like a female, like I could look like a girl, not having testosterone, but I'm.
Do people really say that though? Do people really say that there's biologically no difference between males and female? They're biologically the same thing, exactly the same.
Still a male.
Some people are male, some people are female, chromosomally. But when we start to take testosterone, our bodies do biologically change.
But what about trans men who don't take testosterone?
Then their bodies don't biologically change.
That means then they're biologically still female, right?
Well, and gender in itself is something we get to choose. Okay,
That's right.
Just like you said.
Well,
right.
in your life, you get to choose. Not you don't get to choose it for the world, but you get to choose.
No,
it
I
for
get
your
to
life.
choose my gender because I've been on testosterone for 10 years. Okay, going on 11 years.
But there's some anatomy that will never change.
That's right.
Right? I mean, you still have ovaries. You still have
Yes.
the female reproductive system. You said that you had a child.
Yes, I've given birth. I no longer have female reproductive organs.
Right, but you had that. You will never get male productive organs.
Now, when you think about it, the male and female productive organs are similar, and they're nearly the same. They're different.
Right.
They're different in size.
Even if
Biologically,
Yeah,
they're different.
but if you get phalloplasty, and you're not suddenly gonna start nutting out of your T dick. You're not gonna start impregnating chicks with your T dick. Like that doesn't work. It's actually just the same system. It's actually just the same system. So if it were the same system, I'd be nutting. Like I'd be shooting sperm out of my T dick.
Functionality too.
Not necessarily, because the testes and the ovaries are very much similar. One is an egg, one is a fertilizer,
But
and
we
that's
can
the
never.
difference.
But I never can produce sperm.
You're absolutely
ever,
right.
Ever.
You're absolutely right.
And they can never produce ova.
And you guys are saying that gender is like a social construct. Is that what you're saying too? That you could change it? But also, if you want to be technical about it, age.
This guy's they're like on one track and they're all talking about the same thing, and this guy's like, gender. You guys say gender is a social.
is a social construct. Your ethnicity and race is a social construct. And I'm Hispanic. I can't say I'm Chinese because I like
What are
Chinese
you
food.
talking about?
I could bleach my skin all I want. I could wear Chinese clothes. but
no,
I'm
race
Chinese.
is not.
It's a
How
social
is
construct.
ethnicity going to be a construct?
There's all social constructs.
So
There's all
how-
groups.
how-
Literally, when did any of these people say anything about race being a social construct or ethnicity being a... Look at this. This is what appears to be a Latino man. This is a black man. Like, what are we talking about here?
How
If you look
exactly?
Up, if you look up, is race a social construct? Ethnicity a social construct? Is time a social construct? Right. Everything's a social construct if you want to think about it.
I mean, technically, they are social constructs, but not in the, like, weird political context that he's thinking about, where they're... like yes, they are things that were socially constructed by a society. Like, that is just what happened historically. What are we talking
That way.
about?
But we have set truths and we can't change those truths. If you want to say you're trans man, that means you're a biological female that thinks that
No,
you're a male.
I am.
Nobody... No, I am a biological male.
I am a biological male. I'm an anatomically.
See, he's gonna have different
I'm
version
still
of it than,
right.
and I think it's
So-
really important that
right,
you understand
and
we're all
it-
gonna
and
have
it's
different
Yeah, like, can we understand this spectrum here? Because look at, I am a biological male, and then we got I don't want to be fucking associated with this guy.
Comic, okay? Because biologically, I have shifted, okay? Trans meaning going from one to the next.
Biologically,
Oh my
I
god,
always
we
think
sound like... You sound insane. I am transmitting genders.
I know that there's importance for you guys, but meeting me or seeing me, you would never know. So why is it important?
Well, no,
Like,
because
you know, like,
just
'cause I'm just
say if I
curious.
was a woman, just say if I was a woman and I wanted to date you, what are you gonna tell me?
I would tell you that I'm trans. What do you
No,
mean?
no, I'm saying you can't tell me that you're a man.
I mean, I'm still a man.
No, but you
I'm a
gotta tell
transgender
me.
man.
I would tell you that I'm a man until I feel that it's appropriate to tell you that I'm a trans man.
You gotta tell me that you were born a woman. You have
I
to.
mean, I don't have to.
Well, because if I go down, if I see
Right.
you in your pants,
Right.
Well, I think as transgender people, it's important to gauge when to tell people that we're trans. And as I said, you know, to me, it's someplace after the first date. Like, you meet maybe 1 or 2 times, and then you tell them that you're trans. I've told people that I'm trans too early. I've told people that I've never told people that I'm trans too late, but that does happen. You gotta find what works for you.
Do your penises make you more men than us?
It's part of
it's
what
not
does.
making more or less. It's we're a biologically.
I think this is one of the most agreeable people here. It's part of it.
Man, you're not a biological man.
It's not a spectrum,
It's
so
from-
it's not a question that we can answer because you're saying on the spectrum, would this make us more of a man than you? But no, it's because we are a man and you guys aren't.
Well, we're different.
So we're not men.
We're
Is
different.
exactly what you just said.
In my
I think we're all men here. Like, I think this whole circle is men, right? These are males. These are females. And I think that these are females that are living as males, and these are males. I think it's just about that simple.
my view, you guys are appropriating the gender and you are living as a man, but biologically you are not a man. So to me, it's not. You can't say, okay, well, does that make us more of a man? That's not even a question to ask because you're not a biological man. When it comes down to asking questions that make me start to change what the truth is and what the truth isn't, putting it on a spectrum when it's an objective truth, that's where I draw the line.
Argument is that people try to invalidate who we are with that. I'm not saying that you guys are doing that, but a lot of society in the world does that. Well, biologically, you're female. What hurts trans people that people don't realize what they're doing is it's very harmful. You got to be aware of what you're saying, what you're putting out there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, 100%. I would, and that's why I think we all agree. We would never try to offend you or anything like that. To be honest, if I saw any one of you in the streets, I don't care.
Didn't he literally just say, like earlier in this video, that if he saw one of these trans guys in the streets, that he would think that it's a woman? So what are we talking about?
I mean, we have to be transparent and honest with each other. You know, I think that not everybody on this side presents 100% like a man. Like if I saw you in the streets, I wouldn't think you were a man. You know,
Like, I literally keep saying that this entire video. What the fuck are we on about right now?
it's not gonna bother me that you want to.
Right.
I would know unless I pulled your pants down or something. Why do you feel like you have to present the way you do? You know,
Dysphoria, next question.
facial feel like it's something that has gone wrong at birth. Like, you know, you're born and you say, well, genetics and evolution says
Right.
this. Why do I feel like this,
yeah,
yet
I mean,
have
I
this?
think questioning it was something that I always wondered because sometimes when people say like, oh, like it was a choice, which I hear a lot on the other side all the time, like it was a choice. I was legit born this way. Like I could remember from, I think, 4.
See, I think I have a bit of a contradictory view on that. I don't think I was born to be transgender. I think I was born to be a female. But I think somewhere along the line, there was something that caused gender dysphoria to develop, and that is just what happened. Is I developed gender dysphoria. The treatment to that was to transition. Jesus Christ. And that is simply what happened. That is the fact. Is I was born a female. I was born to be a female. Gender dysphoria. Treatment transgender. You know, I wasn't born to be transgender. It wasn't some magical thing that happened when I was born.
Should be allowed to transition.
Should children be allowed to transition? Now, to me, that is such a complicated thing. Should children be allowed to socially transition? Yes. Should children be allowed to medically transition? How old is your child? Is your child a biological male or a biological female? This is too much of a general question. And what do we define as a child? Are we talking about teenagers? Are we including teenagers, or are we just talking about children? I mean, I don't know.
Oh, I was gonna say, I find it very interesting that you and I are the only ones that stepped up, especially since we're younger. And
You should allow children to feel what they feel, because I felt the way that I felt for as long as I can remember, and it's something that I cannot deny.
Yeah.
You know, although my mother is supportive, when I was younger, I wasn't allowed to wear boys' clothes because that wasn't right.
Which you should
Now I
have
know we're
been.
talking about transitioning. It doesn't always have to be hormones. It's like transitioning in society, so being able to dress more masculine.
Yeah.
I did when I was younger, but as I got into middle school, kids change, people are mean, so you
Yeah.
know, I dressed how I would in society, so I dressed like a girl, whatever, but I think that children should be allowed to express themselves in whatever way makes them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, so I work with children. This is where I have like the biggest problem with the trans stuff is with the children, because people, like I'm sure you guys would agree, you want to inject them with the hormones to stop their puberty, their normal puberty. They haven't even developed the prefrontal cortex yet, and you want to stop their natural.
I've personally never agreed with puberty blockers. Controversial. Never have.
Puberty from occurring to affirm their gender, and then later on they regret it. I think that's not a good thing.
See, that's why this is a loaded question, because transition can mean many things for children. Now, I totally, as a transsexual person, disagree with giving children hormone blockers, medication, surgery, but what I do agree with is socially transitioning, which means why, because I did that, okay, and I did that in the 60s and 70s. My parents dressed me like Buck, I was a boy, you know, I didn't have any problems because I just lived, we used to call it a tomboy, right? So that was totally, and I went through puberty and I did all the things. I do not believe children can make those choices, and I do not believe it's okay and ethical for a parent to make those choices for a child. But I do believe gender dysphoria exists in children. I had it, 100% it's there. But to give medication to a child is so unethical to me that you would actually, you're exactly what you said, you're stunting brain growth, you're stunting all of these things. They don't have enough research on it. So I'm in agreement with transitioning medically for children is not okay for me, but I do believe in a social space.
When you say a social transition, it's interesting to me because we can't control what happens in a social situation.
That's right.
That's fair.
So to
Fair
me,
enough.
and we talk about suicide rates among young trans people, this whole ideology is telling people to derive their value off of what somebody else is saying about them
That's
or what
right.
somebody else affirms to them. So we say that, you know, society is the problem and we're not allowing people to be who they are, and that's why they're committing suicide. But maybe it has to do with the messaging that we're sending to these kids, that you derive your value from if somebody uses your correct pronoun, or you derive your value if this person accepts you for wearing a dress. Be who you are, but tell them to be empowered about it and not get that empowerment from somebody else.
I feel like that's really kind of inconsiderate to say that someone would take their life because what someone else says. To somebody, that is important. To somebody, I know have friends who their family does not use their correct pronouns and they've transitioned and they live in the same household. This person struggles with depression and anxiety. Could you imagine living in an environment like that where you're no longer validated? That's coming from your own parents.
I mean, if I were this guy's family and I were to just like wake up and start calling him she and calling him Jessica or whatever, like wouldn't that make him feel invalidated as a man? Wouldn't that make him feel emasculated? So I can kind of see like part of the point.
But if you base your validation off of other people, this is a hard truth, but if your sole validation
No, you definitely have to do it. Listen,
is based off
I could
other
give
people,
a shit when everyone thinks about me. I do what I want. But for everyone, that's not the case.
I mean, I don't think that's true if we're sitting here talking about how important to you it is to be gendered correctly. Because I'm sure at a point it meant a very lot to this little boy. You know, when he was younger, it meant a lot to him to be called the right pronouns. I'm sure it means a lot to this guy right here to be called the right pronouns while he's just trying to transition. Like, I think.
Talking about children, okay? If we're talking,
child.
okay, I was an 8-year-old when I found out that I wasn't biologically male, right? I was 8 when I found out that I wasn't the same as my brothers. Okay, and so going through that process, I attempted suicide 4 times because my mother was like, "Well, you are a girl. When you're 8 and you're 12 and you don't have anyone else that is in your space,
You look to
and
your
you don't
parents.
have anyone else that lives in the same house as you to tell you you're okay. Where are you supposed to go? How are you supposed to garner your own self?"
8-year-olds can't just pick them up by their bootstraps and go, "Fuck yeah, I'm a man, I don't even give a fuck!" Like, that just isn't how that works. They don't
Validation. If the people that are raising you don't validate who you are.
As a father, you know, my duty is to raise my children the way I believe is right. And if my child somehow struggles with this, which is fine, we'll have that conversation.
Will you go, I see you, or will you be like, fuck no, you're not transgender? What are we gonna
But
do?
I'm going to let it play out the way I believe it should be played out. And at 18 years old, you can do whatever you want to do. If you don't,
Yeah, but when that child turns 18 years old, are you gonna continue to truly let them do whatever they want? Or are you gonna like cut them off and like just stop seeing them and stop validating them?
Grew up with a positive father
Oh my god.
figure.
Oh my god. Oh, look what we've got left on the
This is
trans
good.
side. Oh my god.
I think for me it's surprising because I would believe that a woman who, or a person who's born as a woman who now identifies as a man, didn't have a positive role model as a man, and therefore they felt somewhat insecure as a woman, which makes them, you know, feel a certain way and want to be a certain different person. Maybe they want to be the man that their father never was, or whatever the case may be. And so it was very interesting.
That's a very
being honest,
common
it was
view.
interesting to see pretty much a majority of you guys come forward.
That's so great. I think that's really important that you say that, because I do think a lot of people probably feel that way about guys like me, right? That our fathers we didn't have the right upbringing or what. My father was amazing. I grew up really like a little boy. I always felt like a little boy. My parents actually raised me, and I'm 59 years old, so that was in the 60s and the 70s when we didn't even talk about this kind of stuff. But my parents actually felt it from me. So I think that that's a misconception that people think about people like us.
Any good father pushes their child to feel self-love and to feel like they can be who they want, do what they want, and have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, right? Like our founding fathers. And so it's fatherlessness, or having a missing dad, is one, a pandemic in its own, and it's one that obviously I'm sure Brandon can attest to. It's so critical to have a father in the house, because kids get lost when they don't have one, and having a father that's loving and strong and someone you can rely on is the reason why we're all comfortable with who we are.
I didn't have my father growing up. He was not present in my life at all. So it showed me that some men can step up, like my grandfather and my stepfather, who have taken me in and showed me how to take care of myself, how to be, strong and dependable. And all I've been able to do is give more love to all people that I interact with.
Right.
So it was really important for me to have those figures.
I think this is a really important thing to show people that are watching this, because a lot of times I feel like we can blame any issues in society or anything that arises on the generation that came before us. So any issues that arise in our society, it's like there's not always a reason why it's happening. We just need to address the issue and solve it.
I grew up with all women. My parents were divorced, and I lived with my mom. I had my aunts. So I was raised by women, but my dad was there sometimes, and then my stepdad took me in as his own, so I had my stepdad as a father figure.
I grew up with all women as well. My mom used to tell me I have to be your mom and your dad. So like there'd be times where I got both. Like she was super sweet with me or really strict on me, and like she taught me a lot as well. Like growing up with women, it taught me a lot of vulnerability.
When you were talking,
Listening to all your guys' points, I would definitely say, yeah, I did have a father figure. He was in the Marines, and he has this very toxic masculinity mindset. A lot of anger built up that I can definitely tell he suppressed, in the Marines, because that's what he was taught to do. That's what the Marines are about. He always carried that with him, and I think that's what he tried to instill in me and my siblings at a very young age, which made it hard for me to be vulnerable with myself. And I just saw a lot of anger issues that were, very violent sometimes. And since coming out as trans, I feel like he's been more willing to understand me more and trying to figure out who I am as a person. And because of that, I feel like our relationship has definitely got a lot stronger since then.
So I do think that about wraps it up for our video today. I think that was a really valuable video for a lot of reasons. A lot of the content I make is simply about just looking at trans people, but I think this was a really important video to make, to kind of look at the broader perspective of, who trans men versus conservative cisgender men. So I think I feel enlightened. I'm happy to have received different perspectives on it, and I do think that I got to share some of my opinions that I felt were valuable as well. If you liked this video, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel, maybe even liked this video. I know this is the thing everyone says, but I would also appreciate it if you followed my TikTok, which is thetruthaboutrans. That's my primary platform, but I do also like to post here sometimes. I appreciate you watching this nonetheless, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.